Good morning. We're here today with Michael Trotter, Business Development of the Vulcan to the Sky Trust. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Can you please introduce us to the Vulcan to the Sky project, please?
Yeah, it'd be a pleasure. The project goes back to 1993 when the gentleman, Dr. Robert Fleming, who started the charity, took his son to see the Vulcan's farewell tour in RAF service. And he saw the aircraft at an air show at Rawton and took a picture of her as she flew past, and the sun bounced off the window, and it was as if he said the aircraft winked at him. And a seed was set at that point in 1993 that he would see if it was possible when she was retired to keep her flying. The aircraft was then sold to a family, C. Walton Limited in Leicestershire. After the 1993 farewell tour, she was grounded and she stayed there and kept in running order. And Robert Fleming met with the family and said, we need to talk about whether we could get this aircraft flying again. And I have to put on record at this point, if anybody else had have asked that question, then the project would never have happened. And I'll come on to that in a moment. But 4 years later, in 1997, Robert began what turned out to be a feasibility project to see if we could get the aircraft flying again. Now, you and I, Rick, could go out and buy a Spitfire tomorrow, and as long as we could service it and have it maintained correctly, we could fly it on a Civil Aviation Authority permit to fly in the simple category, and that's not a problem. And there are three categories: simple, intermediate, and complex. The intermediate is a single engine jet type of aircraft, but there is only one complex aircraft on the CAA Register of Heritage Aircraft, which is the Vulcan.
Okay.
And that brings with it, to allow it to be returned to flight, certain restrictions. So you have to get the permission of the original equipment manufacturers to support the restoration. In this case, BAE Systems and Rolls-Royce. And Robert went through 2 years of a feasibility study, and in the end he convinced them that we could do this and we could do it safely. Now, Robert is a nuclear physicist, or was, by training and by trade. So he's got a very good grasp of complex organizational issues. And that's why I said if anybody else had have asked that question, this wouldn't have happened. So 2 years after that, 1999, Rolls-Royce and BAE Systems said, yeah, okay, we can't see any reason why you shouldn't do this, and gave the permission to go ahead. And the work then started to see what we would need to do to get the aircraft flying again, way before my time. And it was quoted at 2.7 to 3 million pounds to restore it to flight at the time.
Oh.
And Robert decided with a board of trustees to set up a charity to raise funds to restore her to flight and then operate her. If you then jump forward, remember in 1999, Robert in 2005 secured a Heritage Lottery Fund grant for 2.4 million, I think it was. But as the project moved forward, it became clear that this aircraft that was decades old needed more work than was apparent when he first started it. But to cut a long story short, the first flight after restoration took place in 2007, a test flight at the Bruntingthorpe Airfield in Leicestershire. And when the aircraft took off, it had cost 7.2 million, not 2.7 million.
Wow.
So it was remarkable that everybody had told him that this couldn't be done, it wouldn't be possible. And they also said, and hold this thought, and if you do restore it to flight, you won't be able to keep it flying. So we'll come on to that in a moment. So the aircraft returned to flight, first flight in 2007, and she made her first public display at the 2008 airshow season at RAF Waddington, where she was delivered in 1960 for her first, after she was built, the first station she landed at. And then from 2008 until 2015, she was flown and operated safely. And then she was finally grounded in 2015 when the two major engineering authorities that needed to support us withdrew their support. Now, it's kind of understandable because we've flown more than the hours that Heritage Lottery Fund had asked us to fly. And giving permission for an aircraft to fly that you own essentially the copyright for brings with it all sorts of liabilities. So you can kind of understand why Rolls-Royce and BAE Systems said, you've had 8 years, this is great, but I think you should stop now. And we appealed and we argued, but eventually we were grounded. And we guessed there was about 2 more years of flying life on her anyway, but 2015 was the last flight. And since then we've been at Doncaster Sheffield Airport, which was the original Royal Air Force Finningley, since then. So that was the story of the return to flight and the flying years, and we're now in a new phase. So to reiterate, the Vulcan to the Sky Trust is a charity. It's funded by public donation, by volunteers actively raising funds around the country. We have a web store. We have events and activities, although in the last 18 months, you'd imagine, it's been difficult to do that because of the COVID pandemic. But I would say 12 to 15% of our funding has come over the years from sponsorship, and the rest from public support through donations, web store, the whole thing. So it's a project that's gone through many ups and downs, but we fight on. And we're in a new and challenging phase now because for the first 12 months after we were grounded, we had a hangar at Doncaster Sheffield Airport where we could let the public come and see the aircraft, have tours. We could have dinner events, product launches. In fact, I think we had 3 weddings under the aircraft in that period of time.
Wow.
But the airport is a commercial venture, and they needed the hangar space for a major commercial client on the site. So we agreed to move out, and the airport then very kindly bought a piece of land adjacent to the airport, and they said, if you can find the funds, you can build yourself a permanent home there. We'll be your landlord, but we bought this piece of land for you to do that. And since 2017, 2018, we've got the hangar designed. We've got fantastic content scoped out and planned. We've got planning permission. We've made a meaningful start on the site, so the planning permission is essentially extended indefinitely. But now we're trying to raise the money that we need to raise to build a permanent home for this aircraft, which we called, because of everything she'd overcome over the years, the Spirit of Great Britain.
Wow,
so,
nice.
So it is important now that we find a permanent home to keep her safe, and then to allow the public to come in to see her. And that's where we are at the moment.
And what kind of strategies have you been implementing, or you plan to implement, in order to raise the funds for the next phase of the project?
Well, it's in several phases. First of all, we go back to our core supporters, and I'll give you some stats in a minute as to how robust that audience is. We go back to our core supporters and explain to them we need to raise the money. And the campaign that we launched to raise the money to build the home is called Operation Safeguard. So members of the public can donate either 30 or 50 pounds and get their names inscribed on an exhibit in the hangar using artifacts from our stores. And they also become what we call guardians of the aircraft, and they'll get a month, twice yearly magazine and newsletters, the normal membership club type of thing. We're also talking to small to medium-sized businesses and above about what we're calling the 558 Executive Alliance. where for £3,000 you could get your name in the hangar in perpetuity, and you could get discounted rates to use the hangar for functions, for team building exercises, the whole thing. It's limited to 558, matches the tail number. So that would be 1.6, 1.7 million pounds towards the hangar build cost. The hangar build cost, by the way, is about 4.5 million pounds currently. And then also we're talking to major corporations about larger sponsorship packages, naming rights, and we're also talking to grant giving bodies to do the build and fit out. There'll be two phases. First of all is to build the hangar to get the airplane out of the weather in a secure place that the public can come and visit. But by far the most important legacy for this project will be an idea that was near and dear to Robert's heart. By the way, I should have said earlier, you probably know this, a great shock to us all back in February this year, Dr. Fleming passed away suddenly at his desk as ever, working away. And so we determined to deliver this legacy for him. So we'll have the history of the V-Force aircraft and our aeroplane in particular. We're going to build a national memorial to the V-Force aircraft and crews who kept us safe in the Cold War. People have forgotten about that. They were ready to go with nuclear weapons in the 50s and 60s with nothing to come back to many times. So that needs to be commemorated.
Absolutely.
And at Doncaster Sheffield Airport, because RAF Finningley was the only RAF station that had all three V-Force aircraft based there. So it's appropriate and it's fitting. But the thing that Robert wanted to do is to use the aircraft to inspire the next generation of youngsters to become engineers. And we will be building within the hangar what we're calling the Green Technology Hub, which will show youngsters how aeroplanes work, how they're powered, the impact that aerospace and aviation is having on the climate, and the fact that work is being done and needs to be done to develop a carbon neutral future for aviation. The world will need to stay connected. I don't think anybody really disputes that. Aviation is an important part of that, so we need to work and strive to make it carbon neutral. Now, many youngsters believe that engineering is a dirty job and it's not very exciting, and it's far from that. It is an exciting job, it's problem solving, it's working in an environment where exciting things happen. And we believe that we can show children a route through their education to pursue careers in engineering, which will be well paid, but can make meaningful change in the world. And that should be Robert's real legacy. And he was passionate about it and wrote a lot of stuff around it. And we're building our plan for the Green Technology Hub around what he wrote and what he developed. It's very exciting.
It is. It's fantastic. And I don't know whether this will help or not, but my son, he's 10, and he wants to get into mechanical engineering. So we'll see.
Yeah.
So early ages.
Yeah. Well, we're working very hard at the moment. We haven't got the money for the hangar build yet, but ever confident and always believing we can win this battle. We're working with local schools on building the hangar exhibits I talked about that we can put people's names on. So school children are going to work on that as a project to develop a solution to make that happen. We're working with the local university technical college in Doncaster, and they're developing curriculum work with Vulcan as an element of it. They're very excited about that. So we're doing our bit, I think, to enthuse and inspire the next generation in the region. And also we need to make sure that people understand that engineering is open to boys and girls. There's so few girls think about engineering. We need to change that perception.
Absolutely, completely agree. Yeah. And so, what are your future projects? Anything in the pipeline?
Well, the future all-consuming project is to raise the capital to get this hangar build started. That is taking all our time. That is taking all our energy and attention. And if we can secure the funding from the public, from businesses locally and regionally, and from major sponsors, then we can go on to start to build the content of it. And we've already got that scoped out because we'll be talking to various grant funding bodies locally, we'll send an expression of interest to the National Heritage Lottery Fund. So there's a lot of work for the next 6 to 8 months just to get all those ducks in line, because if we got the funding in place by, say, September, we could be open before Christmas next year.
That'd be amazing.
And we need to have the content designed and built. I've just been reading, I can't share it sadly, I wish I could because it's terribly exciting, a study we've had commissioned on what the content may look like, and it is really very exciting. And the fact that it could be in Yorkshire, in the region, as a nationally and possibly internationally significant attraction is very exciting, because we've built into this a function that schools and the public can interact with it without actually visiting. So it could be an international centre to get children talking about climate change issues, the engineering solutions we need to solve them, and then looking forward to careers in engineering. So for Yorkshire and the region, it could be terribly exciting. Well, it will be, in fact.
It will be.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much, Michael. It's been a pleasure. And if you'd like to know more, please visit the website of Vulcan to the Sky Trust. And thank you very much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.